Hello and welcome to episode number 47 of Behind the Impact. I'm your host, Jeremy Brown. In this episode, Robyn King, the head of social impact at Canva, joins the show. Robyn, welcome to Behind the Impact.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
I'm excited to chat with you. We have a lot to get into, and I'm really looking forward to digging into what Canva is doing on the impact side. But before we get into all of that, what I would really love to do is kind of go back to the beginning and uh, get an idea of your career journey. And actually, your career journey is very interesting. You actually started on the law side of things before getting into product and impact and whatnot. So, can you give me that career journey?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, I studied law at university and also fine arts, which is quite a weird combo. And I worked as a corporate lawyer for a few years. And I guess I was looking at what partners were doing at work and also what I was enjoying most in the legal environment. And I loved doing all the pro bono work and also kind of the volunteering that we did on the side. So, although I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do next, I knew I was really enjoying those pieces of work. And I started chatting to a bunch of people and found out that there was this degree you could do in social impact. So I started studying that. It was part of the MBA course, so it was electives in an MBA course. I was living in Perth in Western Australia at the time, so studied that while I was still working as a lawyer on the side. And it was a real kind of aha moment for me, I think. I had my eyes open to this whole new world of social impact, which I didn't even know existed before, really. And it kind of gave terminology to this stuff that I was really enjoying, I think. And what was also really interesting about it was that I got to really see how to solve any complex, wicked problem, you need to have a lot of different sectors working together. So this course brought people from government and nonprofits and corporates and academia. So all these people kind of sitting around looking at like what can we contribute from where we stand to solve a part of the puzzle. So yeah, it was really insightful from that perspective. I got to meet lots of really interesting people. And I guess learn about this whole realm of jobs in social impact. So from there, I then got a job at a education nonprofit in Western Australia. I got to put a lot of my learnings into practice, so that was really great. I was still finishing off my course when I got this job, and still using parts of my legal training, I guess. But worked in that for a few years and really got to sort of cut my teeth in the social impact world. And then I moved across into a WA is very resource driven, so a resources company, where I was part of the sustainability team and I kind of set up our human rights and modern slavery practice. That was at the time when modern slavery legislation was being introduced around the world, and big companies who made over a certain amount of revenue were obligated to kind of look for slavery in their supply chains and then do something about it if they found it. So um, that was really interesting and kind of having to build on the run, I think, because no one had done this stuff before. So a lot of great learnings and insights from that. And from there, I kind of was looking at what next, and I saw this company, Canva, who had were growing really quickly. But at the time, looking back, there was still a baby at that stage, still in their infancy, and had a lot of intent behind social impact. I could see the founders were really keen to do things in that space, spoke about it quite a lot, but they weren't that they were growing so fast and really kind of focused on the core business and the core product that they hadn't done a heap of work in that space yet. But they had that intent. So that was what drew me to Canva, and I started having conversations with them. And I can go on, I guess, about how I then got a job. But would you like me to dive into that?
Actually, before we do that, so you went from the nonprofit to the corporate sector, and that is a jump that many practitioners that's many practitioners have that background of going from nonprofit to corporation. Did you encounter any challenges or things that you weren't aware of coming from the nonprofit sector and then now being in the corporate sector?
I think because I'd done that sort of a bit of a zigzag path of like corporate, nonprofit. corporate. I think I was kind of aware of some of the challenges, but then again, it was in a different, when I was at first in a corporate, it was a very different capacity because I was working on our core business. So I think the biggest challenge I found is there's sort of a core business that takes up majority of people's time. And as much as they are passionate about the impact side of things, it can be an afterthought or it's harder to fit in and prioritize alongside very busy um, kind of core roles that already take up people's a lot of their capacity. So that's a constant tension and challenge that I think people probably face when you are like within a sustainability or a CSR or an impact team within a corporate. Whereas a nonprofit, everyone's working on that together. So I guess that's to me the biggest difference. Um, and it's also a huge opportunity, I think, to make it part of everyone's role in a corporate, because I think that's the only way you're ever going to be really effective.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more because yeah, I agree. It's definitely a challenge, and if you can figure out how to incorporate it deeper into a business, that's going to not only make the role stickier and the work stickier, but it's a more sustainable way of moving forward. From your perspective, how does social impact integrate into businesses? In other words, how can practitioners do that more effectively?
Hmm. I think it really depends on the business. So I'll give the example of Canva, how we do it. Um, uh, our founders from day one have had a really clear vision uh, for a two-step plan, they call it. A simple two-step plan, where step one is to build one of the world's most valuable companies, and step two is to do the most good that we can. And they've kind of stated that as their reason for being from the get go. So, building this valuable company is for the purpose of fueling how we can do the most good that we can. And they really see it as a virtuous cycle or circle where the bigger we get, the more valuable we get, the more good we can do. So, I think it's been built into our DNA from the get go, which is really, really helpful. And I think where I see it, like tension really coming out, is where it's more of a tack on the side and a bit of a box ticking exercise for companies. So um, I think there's a place for things like legislation coming in to mandate certain things, because I think it's a whole chicken and egg thing. I think that then makes companies who might not otherwise do anything at all, makes them sort of get the ball rolling and do something. But for it to be truly embedded and part of DNA, I think it has to come from leadership. So I think there has to be strong top down and then like bottom up adoption and driving that into different parts of the business, because obviously leaders can't be everywhere and across everything. So then you need that adoption. But people need to be given permission, I think, to champion this and to make time for it and to prioritize it in how they make decisions. So yeah, a bit of both, I think, top down, bottom up.
When you joined Canva, was social impact as a function or department, was that already there, or were you tasked with building it from scratch?
No, it wasn't there. Like I said, the plan's always been very clear. And Mel, our current CEO and founder, one of our founders, for her, that is very much like why she's building Canva, to empower the whole world to design with our product, but then also to really give back. And that's really motivating, I think, for her, for our other founders, and for our entire team. But we didn't have, we were doing some charitable work, but it was quite ad hoc and not overly strategic, I'd say, at that point in time. So I actually joined Canva as a product manager. We were growing really fast back then and needed product managers, and I didn't really know all that much about product management, but we kind of had a program where I was going to learn on the job and kind of had the broader skill set required to learn product management. So joined and was part of our user voice team, which is where we kind of looked at all the feedback from users and how we kind of bake that into new features for our product. So I got to know the product side of the business, and I worked on that for about a year, whilst doing social impact work on the side and starting to really kind of build some strategies and ideas and seed, you know, thoughts on that. And then we were still doing bits and pieces of work at that point. We had a really big crisis that we responded to that was almost a bit of a turning point. I don't know if you remember the Australian bushfires. That was about 6 years ago. These big catastrophic bushfires. We donated $1 million and kind of did this big crisis response. And there were a few other kind of initiatives we were working on at the time. And it was at that point that I kind of pivoted and started working on this full time and left the product management role, started setting up the Canva Foundation. We joined Pledge 1%, pledge 1% of our time, product, profit, and equity. And yeah, started really kind of putting a bit more substantial time behind this work.
So you have a wealth of experience building programs from scratch. Can you take me back to the time when you made that transition from product over to running social impact? Where did you start in terms of the strategy and just building out the function?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm gonna have to use my memory here. But I think what we've always focused on is where can we play a role that others can't? So what are our unique strengths? There are so many amazing things already happening in this space. So where can we amplify or fill a gap? Instead of reinventing the wheel. So for Canva, I think our strengths are our people. We've got a team of 5,000 plus with very unique skill sets who are really at the top of their game. Our product. So our product is inherently a good, positive product that we also give away for free to nonprofits and to students and teachers, and even to say small businesses or people re-entering the workforce. They can use it to create a CV and land a job. And so there's a huge amount of impact we can have through our product. And then obviously we're in a very unique position of being a fast growing, profitable tech company. So we've got money. So it's sort of the intersection of those three buckets that we think about when we think about where to focus on. And it's been a bit of a combo. Like some of the work that we do draws more on, say, investment and donations. So that's probably more of our basic needs work that we do, where we don't believe we should live in a world where people's basic needs are not met. We have the resources in the world to do that. They're just not being directed in the right way. So we are working, one of our big kind of um, partnerships is with Give Directly, who are global leaders in direct cash transfers. So we work with them to give cash to people living in extreme poverty with no strings attached, and they can choose what they want to do to lift themselves out of poverty. We also do a bunch of crisis work around meeting people's basic needs in times of crisis. And then what I think really lies at the intersection of people, product, and money is our education work. So, like I said, we give our product away for free to nonprofits and students and teachers, and have millions of students and teachers around the world using that now and bringing on board like whole ministries and districts of education. So, that's growing really, really fast. And then we use our skills, our team's time and skills through a lot of volunteering work. And then we also have a bunch of different programs and initiatives that we support um, that focus on different parts of the educational journey.
And before we move on, for the five people in the world that may not be familiar with Canva, what is Canva?
Good question. So it's a design tool, and we're on a mission to empower anyone to be a designer, really. So you can create pretty much anything you can think about now in Canva. We have lots of different templates that you can kind of just click on and drag and drop. We've got amazing new AI features, so things where you can kind of like do words to images and some really, really cool things coming out at the moment. You can do video, you can do presentations, you can do um, loads of social media things and business marketing. And yeah, so pretty much anything you can think of. You can do an invitation for your kid's birthday party. There's loads of different pre existing templates, or you can design your own. And we've got lots of different features that kind of make Canva more user friendly for big corporates who might want to put like controls in place as they kind of scale. And teachers and students where you can submit work and get it marked and create virtual classrooms. And so, yeah, lots of different features for different audience types.
And then going back to what you're saying about your programs and all the different initiatives you have going on, throughout that process of building up Canva's social impact arm, what have some of the lessons you've learned throughout that whole process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think as we've grown, we sort of have realized we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So it's about how do you find really impactful, effective, research-backed partners who kind of um, are aligned in ways of working, I guess, and really looking to co-design, I think. Like we're a company we're a founder-led company. Our founders are deeply involved in the business still in loads of different ways. We are quite hands-on, I'd say, in the way we partner and the way we kind of we want feedback from our partners as much as we want to work with them to design things. So it's been about how do we find really effective implementing partners around the world um, who are very much aligned with the goals that we're seeking to achieve. Um, and I mean, a challenge I think along the way is that we are so global. So we could go down so many different paths with our impact. So focus is really important. And I think we've gone on lots of sort of a windy road, I'd say, and sort of tried some things, they don't quite work, or the effort doesn't equal the impact. So I think we've got really, really crisp and clear, focusing on our two sort of really key pillars of basic human needs and education. We do other things, obviously, in like empowering nonprofits through our product and crisis support and work sustainability and planet work. But those are our two really key kind of areas that we fund and sort of get behind now. And it's really helpful to have that clarity because we get so many different organizations and individuals and amazing research institutes reaching out to us all the time. So the clearer we are in what we're trying to do, the better, I think, in that clear is kind. And the more we can communicate really clearly to everyone else what we're working on, the more we can find really aligned partners because we can't be everything to everyone and we have to stay focused, I guess. We are really fortunate to have funding, but it obviously isn't infinite. So, to be wise stewards of our resources, we have to be really focused.
That's a good point when it comes to being a global company, because I imagine if you have employees around the world, every country has different values and different things that they care about. Every employee has different things that they care about. How did you kind of hone in on what Canva really cares about from an impact perspective? And that's number one. And then number two, how do you ensure, like, what are the guardrails that you have in place to ensure that what you're focusing on in terms of giving money away, giving product away, are to the organizations that make sense for Canva?
Hmm. Yeah, it varies the due diligence we do, I guess, depending on what it is. Like we give away our product completely free to any nonprofit, any registered nonprofit around the world. So we're close to hitting 1 million nonprofits now. We're sort of in the 900,000. So that's about a tenth of the world's nonprofits, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, we've just taken a blanket rule from the get-go of offering our premium product for free. And that's the exact same with students and teachers. So any student and teacher around the world can use Canva for free. So that's how we kind of serve huge groups of people, I guess. And there's lots of other smaller initiatives that we do. Like we have our office spaces, which we offer for free to nonprofits. They can use those in the evening or when they're not being used. So things like just using what's in our hands, I guess, to kind of empower the sector who do amazing work but are resource poor. So how can we kind of share the love that way? And then there's certain things where we're giving bigger buckets of money where we look for really, like I said, aligned partners. So one thing we're really kind of um, intent on is evidence-backed solutions. So what does the research say? What do randomized controlled trials tell us? what solutions are ready for large injections of capital as well. And yeah, how can we sort of, I guess something we're really focused on at Canva is goals. We do this a lot with our product, and we've brought that same thinking to our philanthropy, where if we set a really clear goal, we're not going to achieve it immediately. It should be a goal that's quite daunting and scary and kind of almost seems a bit impossible. But what are the different milestones that we kind of, and the steps up the ladder that we need to take over the years to reach that goal? And then who are the best players or partners or operators to help us get there? So obviously being evidence backed is really important. And then investing or sort of finding really amazing teams in non, like who are the leaders and the teams of these nonprofits. And like I said, again, it's similar thinking to like the VC world where you're backing founders really and their vision and the teams that they're building. So we're bringing that same thinking to who we choose to partner with as our implementing partners towards our goals.
And what about your team? Are you a team of one, or do you have a team based in Australia? What does that look like?
Yeah, we've got a small foundation team. We've got about 10 people at Canva. We've intentionally kept ourselves small because, like I was saying at the start, we don't want to create like a separate company almost as a foundation. We want to try and embed this within our company and within every, we call Canva employees Canvanauts, every Canvanauts role as much as possible. So we have the luxury of getting to work with our tax team and our legal team and our design team. So we have these amazing teams all around Canva that we can kind of draw on. So we're kind of like the invisible glue, I guess, the foundation team, who work on the strategy, the governance, the direction setting, and then we bring teams in as needed to help us execute certain parts of that strategy and own certain parts of the goals. And obviously, we have big volunteering programs and things like that where we then kind of work with the relevant specialties or groups in our company to run, say, a design nonprofit day or a thing where our product managers will get together and flesh out a roadmap for nonprofits. So there's loads of those sort of skilled activation opportunities as well. So small team, core team, but then we have access to this 5,000 plus team as well around the world.
I gotta say, 10 people, that's actually a fairly large org when it comes to social impacts. I feel like 90% of the people that I talk to on the podcast and in general, they're a team of one. And so I feel like whenever I find somebody that has a team of three, four, five, or more, it's like, oh my goodness, you're a unicorn.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's good to know. But we have a core team in Australia, and then we kind of have people in our regions around the world as well who really look after kind of the programs in that region and the activation, how we get our team involved, how we create those local and more grassroots partnerships. So, yeah, bit of a balance that way.
When you joined, and really not just when you joined, but even to present day, with the employee base, was there ever a moment in time where you had to really educate the workforce at Canva around what social impact is? Or is it more so when people are joining the company, you have the two-step process already in place and they're already kind of indoctrinated into that, so they kind of are aware of what social impact is?
Oh, I think it's a constant journey of education and conversation and upskilling. So, we've actually included it now. We do a big onboarding thing. When you join Canva, you have sort of 2 weeks of onboarding. So we've now got a big section on step two, where you learn a lot around what our focus areas are, what we currently have on offer, how you can get involved, all those sorts of things. So we kind of give you the 101 at the get go, but it's constant, I'd say, and you're sort of pitching it at different levels constantly. So it's how do we take our leaders and executive on the journey? How do we educate um, champions? So one thing we've really like found important is, even though you say we have a big team, it's still small comparative to what we want to achieve, I think. So and what we have capacity to do. So we've built up this sort of champion network where we work with people who have their own full-time role, doing whatever it might be around the world in Canva. But we've really kind of worked with them to educate them on what our focus areas are, what we're wanting to do in our regions, and then empower them to sort of help us build that. And it's great because it gives everyone ownership, a bit of autonomy, um, and helps kind of create more resourcing behind this work. And then there's just different things of even when we do volunteering or activations, it's not just showing up to actually spend the 2 hours volunteering, but educating the team on the what and the why behind what they're doing. And we found that so much really helpful for connection, I think. And so it's one thing to turn up and do something, but to really kind of understand the importance of what you're doing, and then also to sort of build that fire in people's bellies for them to want to come back or like understand an issue and wanting to do more next time or kind of follow up on something, or then say they've come along and done this hour-long session, then they want a gift match to that organization. We do gift matching, so things like that really help for people to, yeah, kind of have that more longer term engagement, I'd say.
I'd love to get your thoughts on educating executives. And the reason why I bring this up is because that seems to be a hurdle for a lot of practitioners, in that a lot of times executives are the gatekeepers in terms of resources and whatnot, and they're also the ones that can frankly stop a program from growing. And I know from conversations that I've had that the education piece is a big thing for them. And it's not always easy to educate an executive who has their own kind of core responsibilities and core metrics that they're really kind of beholden to. From your perspective and through your experience, how have you found the best way of educating executives around social impact and really the why behind why they should care?
I think the biggest challenge is people are time poor. So it's even getting the time to sort of lock in to, because these issues aren't simple, they're complex. And a lot of what we're trying to solve are that there's things we can do as a team to show up and volunteer, but are they the most impactful thing, or are they actually supporting nonprofits in the sector in the way they need it the most, and are they putting our skills and time to the best use? So I think it's one thing to just put time in the diary to do something, but then to take people on this journey of understanding how we can be most impactful and effective is another ball game. So yeah, getting the time and the headspace, I think, to sort of but what I've found is planting seeds, I think, and you do see them grow. And I would also encourage people to just go where you have the most interest. Like there have been certain things over the years where I've tried to push something, and it's just with a leader who, for whatever reason, doesn't have the time or headspace at that point in time. And I probably should have let it go earlier. So go where go where the low hanging fruit is. Who are the people who are most interested, and really nurture that. And then what I found is like you do the easiest thing with them first, like do the simple volunteering thing, and then they will come to their own realization as they speak to the amazing dynamic CEO of that nonprofit who comes along for whatever day they're hosting. They'll be like, oh, but we could do this and that. And then it's their own idea. And then you kind of work through them on how to implement that and put a structured plan in place. So I think as much as you can get people excited about stuff. It's not like a you should do this. It's like how do we make people really excited about this and wanting to carve it out and create the space and time in their teams to do it. Um, and then I think it's about documenting that and creating great little case studies and stories that you can share with the broader team and almost make it feel like they're missing out not doing it and show it like I think that's kind of what we want to go for more than you should be doing this thing. It's like this team had this incredible experience and they're doing this and this now. Here's how you can get involved, kind of thing. So I think that's worked quite well for us. And just building a movement, then it takes time, but you kind of start that movement and you build those relationships.
And in keeping on the theme of kind of communication and education, so you mentioned that There's a point in time in onboarding where new hires are educated around social impact and things like that. How often are you communicating the work that your team is doing to the wider company?
Yep. I mean, I think with all our key moments in the organization, we try and weave step two storytelling in. So we have it's now called Canva TV. We have a monthly company get together. So we'll often share stories as part of that. Like it's kind of an all hands for the whole company. Um, and that obviously raises awareness and kind of gets things in front of everyone. But I think repetition's important as well. So repeating it in different channels. What we found actually most effective is not so much the blanket comms, but when we do, we almost provide the copy and the templates to different teams to then get different voices sharing it. So it's not always our team. We found that lands well because people are going to look at what their coach or their sort of team leader is sending out to their group. It's more relevant to them as opposed to like a big blanket sort of message to the entire company. So we found that works quite well. We've also tried to personalize stories, like we're calling it our close the loop strategy, where as soon as someone's volunteered, we aim to get back to them within, say, a week, sharing pictures of their volunteering and stories of impact from what they did and making them sort of realize how it was really valuable. We capture their feedback. So trying to sort of create a bit of a data feedback loop so we know what's working, but then also sharing back with them so they can actually see that what they did made a difference. And then, yeah, we do lots of kind of, we do a big sort of share back where we go into a lot more detail about twice a year, where we usually get about 800 people in our team coming along, and we kind of do a bit of a show and tell. We'll demo some of the stuff we've done and hear from different voices around the company who've been involved or been launching some of those different programs. So, a few different ways, but always looking to kind of do more, I think, in the storytelling space.
I love the idea of getting department leads involved in the communication. I love the fact that you give templates to department heads and have them kind of communicate in their own words and make it relevant to their teams. Because I mean, to your point, employees are going to listen to the department leads or their managers, and so it makes sense to get them involved. I feel like that's a brilliant communication strategy.
No, it has worked like better for sure.
Now, so we talked a little bit about your career journey. We talked about Canva. And so what I want to do now is kind of zoom out a little bit and talk kind of more broadly about corporate impact. Um, and I know, so you're based in Australia, and obviously Canva is a global team. At least here in the United States, corporate impact has been in a very awkward position and for quite some time in terms of its growth. And over here, many companies have gotten rid of their corporate impact, individuals or teams, functions, for lack of resources and things like that. I'm curious to get your point of view from a different part of the world in terms of where you're seeing the profession of corporate impact heading.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, no, it's a really topical question, I'd say. And I think it's probably playing out really quite differently in different parts of the world. Um, in that I actually think Australia is in a period of growth in this space. I mean, it's been an interesting last 18 months for sure, but I'd say there's this new, especially in the more kind of tech ecosystem, where, yeah, a lot of even startups are sort of interested in this. So, and baking it in from the get go. And there's been quite intentional, there's some groups being set up to really plant seeds with founders. So, when you really have nothing to give yet, it's pretty easy to give, like, to sort of say, yeah, we'll do one, pledge 1% when you're not very valuable yet. So, baking that in from like the DNA from the get go is definitely being encouraged, I'd say. And yeah, a lot of I'd say it's very common for tech companies and corporates here to have a social impact, at least one person in their company, if not a team. And I think for a long time we were quite behind the US in that space, but probably in a way catching up because things have slowed down or gone backwards for you. So I think that's hopeful in lots of ways. But I know there are so many different challenges that we're obviously across because we have a fairly large US employee base, and we've got an office in Austin and in San Francisco as well. So we're very aware of all the changes in the space and the cuts. And I think that the corporates who are sticking at it, there's a real opportunity to kind of be leaders and lean in and fill gaps in whatever way you can. But obviously, I know that's not going to make up for the huge gaps that exist at the moment.
Well, if you can send some of that magic from Australia over to here, it would be greatly appreciated because yeah, the space is very stagnant right now. But I'm optimistic, and you touched on a couple of things that that really make me feel more optimistic. And one of those things is really integrating social impact into the kind of the fabric of a business. And from the conversations I've had with practitioners over the years, I believe that many of them are starting to really see the writing on the wall and realize that in order for this work to continue and to grow and become a sustainable profession, they have to figure out how to drive business value through their work. So it's not just about, giving money away and volunteering. It's about how do you do all these things and more to obviously better communities externally, but also better your company too. And I feel like Canva has figured it out with the step two and kind of your strategy around that. But I would like to get your opinion on what you feel like corporate impact practitioners need to do to weather the storm.
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. I think you're right in that like good for the world and good for business aren't mutually exclusive. So I think that's really kind of what our job is to prove. And to I think it's like quantitative and qualitative, right? Where you've got to as you said, show how you are kind of creating a better environment for whatever it might be for your product to thrive, and the broader external community, or for the internal your internal team, for like retention, for employee engagement, for all sorts of different things. And then I think it's also you can do so much with numbers, like showing the impact that you're having, but then it's also I think there's a real space for more engaging storytelling in this space, and how I genuinely think that's how we kind of that's what people remember. It's how you win hearts and minds. And engaging in people's like what are people passionate about? Because like I said, I think again at the start is I think it's really important to get leadership. You need champions for this, to unlock doors, unlock funding, unlock resourcing. So you need to tap into there is so much you can do. Um, there is so much need everywhere you look. So where is the low hanging fruit? Like where can you start, kind of thing, and look to grow from there. And I think it is finding those champions within your business who may be executives who kind of want to champion this or sponsor it, or whoever else might be able to kind of influence within a business. So to me, that's the way forward. And then kind of really sharing those wins and sharing the impact that you're having and getting people to touch and feel and see this work, because that's really what makes a difference, I think.
Okay, last question for you. Let's do some predictions. If you had to predict where corporate impact is going to be in the next 5 to 7 years, what would your prediction be?
I mean, what I would like to see, I don't know if this is the best prediction, but I would love to see a world where this is part of everyone's role in a company, where everyone thinks about, say, in your performance reviews, you get reviewed on your social impact as much as your whatever your other targets are in a company, your goals are. Because to me, that's the only way it's ever going to sort of become part of your DNA of a company and really be prioritized. I think what you measure matters. So, For us, it's like the constant kind of feedback we get is, I love this work, I just don't have enough time to do it. So I think to truly create space and time, um, and reward people, like it doesn't have to be a compensation reward, but to recognize the contribution they've made towards this work, I think we need to sort of bake it into everyone's role a bit more, um, and yeah, talk about it in that way. So I think if we do that, it'll be at the forefront because no matter what you're doing, you're going to have an impact through every decision you make, a positive or a negative or neutral impact. So if we can encourage more people to have a positive impact through micro decisions to macro decisions they're making in their role in a company about what is best for people and planet, I think that's how we're going to create more robust, sustainable businesses, better engagement with our staff, and better impact through corporates. And also, just it'll become more of an issue. Like people will just talk about it and care about it more in a company.
You brought up another question, so I lied. That was not the last question. You mentioned that people, and this is a case for probably every company on the planet, but I don't have the time, to volunteer, for example. How do you go about creating that time? Is it more of a mandate from executives? Is it something in the kind of the culture or the employee perks? What does that look like?
Hmm. Well, we give everyone 3 days of paid volunteering leave. So they can use that in whatever way they'd like. They can choose their own adventure. But then what we've also found is when we only had choose your own adventure, it wasn't used that much. So we've sort of stepped in as a team to curate a lot of opportunities and make it super, super simple for people to sign up. So we use it like it's little event tiles, and you go on and you're like, I want to do this nonprofit design day, and then we advertise it in the same way I was talking about before via our different Slack channels to the relevant groups. People sign up. We have them in our different campuses around the world. And then we also have global and sort of remote opportunities. So anyone can do them online from anywhere. So those have been really good in kind of encouraging people to sign up, and super easy. Like it's time boxed. You know exactly what you're signing up for. We have slightly more complex and grey projects where it might be a problem you're signing up to solve in partnership with a nonprofit, and you use your skills. And we may have scoped it for a day, but it may go on, kind of thing. So that's when, for people who kind of want to dive into a meteor project, where some people want to come along for like a 2 hour project, and that's all. So we kind of have a different array of options on our menu that people can choose from. But yeah, we have found making it simple and clear definitely encourages involvement.
Well, Robin, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Thank you so much for your leadership in this space and all the great things that you've done at Canva. I will be continue to follow your journey in terms of building up its capacity for giving back. And I feel like Canva, not only is it a successful business and it's such a great company, but it is proving and showing the world what a good company can do when it comes to building a thriving business, but also giving back and making a difference. So, thank you so much for your leadership.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
This episode is brought to you by Social Impact World, the intelligence layer for corporate impact. To learn more, go to socialimpactworld.com. I'm Jeremy Brown. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Impact.